Hey! It's a noon train on time?
Supposed to be.
Feels like it's time.
Yeah.
That was supposed to already have came on. It was late. With that being said, we gotta get to our show today. Shout out everybody that's already in the chat. We have a question up real quick. I just want to read the question to y'all, and we're gonna get right into what's going on. We got a question up there today. The question is, do you think Alpo out of Harlem? So far, we got 6 votes. We have 33% say yes. There's 6 votes. They're all pretty even. It's 2-2-2. With that being said, we're gonna get right to the show. So opening statements was yesterday. For everybody that don't know, Shakeem Parker is currently the individual that's on trial for the what the prosecution has called it is an assassination of Alpo Martinez. So real quick, I just want to give you a little bit of context. Alpo had been living in Maine. He's been on witness protection. For everybody that don't know, give me 1 second. He's been in witness for protection, for everybody that don't know, because during the 1980s and early 1990s, he was a part of a drug operation. And so after, as many people already know, there's been movies and made directly about this concept. And there's been other movies that just kind of directly about this actual history. And then there's other movies that have been made on the concept of what was going on. And you want to get an approximation of something that was created that isn't meant to be this, but is this. You could think about Belly. So with that being said, Alpo was living in Maine. He went by the name of Rodriguez. I wrote it down somewhere, but he went by the last name of Rodriguez. We're going to come across it at some point. And so he was actually living, just so we could be clear, in witness protection. He had decided at one point or another, for whatever the reason it was, to start revisiting Harlem. That's when we all started seeing him popping up on social media right and left. Remember, he's supposed to be in witness protection, but as we also, with our own eyes, he was popping up on social media right and left. He was giving his 2 cents about this, his 2 cents about that. He was probably doing things that the government would have preferred that he did not do, just so we can be clear. At one point or another, he is in Harlem. He's, I believe, in Harlem. That's all you need to know to have context for what happened. So at one point or another, he's in Harlem. It is October 30th going into October 31st. There is a Halloween party that is happening. He goes outside. He's sitting outside of, because there's a lot of, it's Halloween happening. He's sitting in his vehicle. At one point or another, a gunman comes up to him and shoots him. The government is currently saying, the people is saying that the gunman was Shakeem Parker. At any point, the gunman comes up to him and sees him. He, while sitting in the driver's side, he speeds off. He goes about 5 or 6 blocks. He goes, how many other blocks? He starts crashing into cars that are parked. And then that's where he crashed right in front of a police precinct. The police precinct had came out. So the first people that actually were testifying today were the police. And that's usually generally what they do. There's a lot that we want to talk about, but we can't discuss it until we break down why this is important. You can't just bring things up in the court of law. I know people think that you can. You can just go to a court of law and be like, I'm going to say these things. But that's not the way that it works. Things need to actually have something to do with the case. Like, you can't just go in there and start talking about random other things that has nothing to do with the actual case that's happening. You just can't do that. I know people think that you can, because that's how y'all talk about people out here in the street. You'll just go up to somebody and a person will say a thing and then you'll attack their character. And you can't just do that in a court of law. You understand what I'm saying? That's what they do out in the street, right? Tell me where I'm wrong. If I'm saying anything wrong, put it in the chat. So we're about to get to the opening statements. Shout out to Jamal Fareed. He's his BBN fan mods. So we're about to get to the opening statements right now. First, judge entered the courtroom. They had a little bit of a conversation before opening statements actually had started. So there's a body cam that they have, and the defense doesn't want the entirety of the body cam played. They came to an amicable resolve. There was a decision made by the judge that there are little tiny pieces of the body cam which can be excluded, and it wouldn't actually hurt the context that the state is trying to provide for their prosecution. So there was a couple of agreements that was had, whatever the case is, but there's 2 body cam videos. There was snippets of one video that the judge had already saw, and then he had to look at the second one after looking at the second one later, so I don't have to stop. They determined that there's little pieces that can be taken out, but basically in the entirety of its context, it was doing what it was supposed to be doing. But they are little tiny snippets, and is it really worth it to take it out? So that's what the judge was saying. Anyway, so the jury enters, the judge gives the instructions. There's a couple of things that I want to say about the judge's instructions real quick, because this is what we have to get into our brains. I know that people think that you're not even supposed to use information that you find on social media in order to determine whether you think somebody is guilty or innocent. You're supposed to only use the information that is allowed in the courtroom and given to you. You're not supposed to use a conversation that you've had with your friends. You're not supposed to use, you've seen a movie 7 or 8 years ago on this particular topic, and so you're not supposed to use that information either. They're not even supposed to use the pre-existing knowledge of the individuals that's currently on trial. You do understand this. So if it's a person that we know, you're not supposed to use your pre-existing opinion of him to determine, or her, to determine whether they're guilt or innocence. So the judge, and I just wrote down I wrote down a lot, but I'm just going to repeat a couple of the things that the judge that gives instructions to the jury. Keep this in mind, because these are basically the basic instructions which is usually given. Says the opening statement is not evidence. The closing statement is not evidence. So when you see, and I have to do a better job of this myself, but when you see a news outlet give information about something, that's not evidence of the thing actually have happening or have not happened. So you're not supposed to criticize the news agency unless what they're doing is pushing an agenda. So now if they're clearly pushing an agenda, then there's an understanding why you should be upset with them, because that's not them doing their job. But if they aren't pushing an agenda and what they are doing is giving out information, and they're giving out information in a non-biased way, you're supposed to respect that. So with that being said, opening statements and closing statements are not evidence. Yes, this is Brian D. Also, like I just explained, you're only supposed to consider the evidence. So the judge also told them, only thing you're supposed to consider is the evidence, the actual evidence that we're saying is evidence here in the court. You're not supposed to nothing outside. So basically, it's the same thing that I just said. He says the question, if a question is asked, that question is not answered. That doesn't make that question evidence. The only thing that is evidence is when the question is asked and the answer is given. That's evidence. But if a question is asked, that's not evidence. So if they ask a question and the guy says, I plead the fifth, and doesn't answer, that's not evidence. If they ask a question and there's an objection and the judge says, upholds the objection, sustains, that's not evidence. The question is not evidence. That is not evidence, correct? I think that people have, because I think that happens often, even when we speaking with people in the street. Somebody will just say something about somebody and, oh, that's the truth. No, it's not. That's just what that rat bastard is saying. You don't know what the truth is unless you was there. Also, the court has no opinion of the guilt or innocence. So don't determine what the judge says in order for you to decide whether you think that the judge is leaning one way or the other. The court is not leaning in any direction and in favor of no verdict at all, whether it be guilt or whether it be not guilty. Also, remember, the prosecution always has to have the burden of proof. It's not on the burden of the individual that you're accusing to prove that they didn't do anything. It's on the person that is the accuser to prove that that person has actually done something. This is why I keep trying to explain to you. When you accuse somebody of something, they can't prove they didn't do it. That's not the way that works. You don't get to accuse somebody of something. Now they have to prove that this thing that you've accused them of is false. When you accuse somebody of something, or when you say that somebody did something, you have to be able to prove the thing that you're saying. That's what I be trying to explain when the people be in the chat and they'll ask me something or they'll say something and I'll say whatever I'm saying. Anyway, so the burden of proof is always on the prosecution, never on the accused, never on the defendant. And it has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond all doubt. Because doubt, there can always be doubt. So not beyond a shadow of a doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt. With that being said, there's a couple of things. This is the opening statement of the prosecution. There's a couple of things that I want to say, right? So they saying on October 31st, 2021, Shakeem Parker assassinated Alpo Martinez. And she said it like that. She said assassinated in court. Alpo was, and then immediately led into that Alpo was a drug dealer in the 1980s and 1990s. But when they said that it was fascinating, interestingly sad, his life, there was an objection. I just wanted to talk about this real quick. So what the defense is allegedly, if you listen to what the courts are arguing, or at least the court believes the defense team is going to try to do as far as their strategy, is to say that Alpo wasn't a good person. There was a lot of people that wanted Alpo gone. My client was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. I know that you believe that my client had something to do with it. We're not saying that my client was not there. We're just saying that my client did not participate in what happened to Alpo. The proof of this is that this person Alpo was a bad person, was a terrible person. And that's why when earlier in the opening statement, they said he was a drug dealer, the prosecution, and then the prosecution then went from saying that he was a drug dealer, saying that he was interestingly sad, the situation, they immediately said, objection. Anyway, I found that interesting. So they go on to say it happened on October 30th, 31st on 149th Street, Adam Clayton Powell. He was with his brother. They say Shakeem Parker. Basically, what they're saying is that I don't have to say this verbatim. So basically, what they're saying is that there's a street. Shakeem Parker was with his brother Danny Parker. They was inside the store. Alpo pulled up and was parked about in the crosswalk. So when Alpo was parked in the crosswalk, if anybody know what the crosswalk is, what we're supposed to cross the street at, but people do whatever they're gonna do. He was parked in the crosswalk and people was coming to his vehicle and he was talking to people. They're saying basically the brothers went walked around and scanned the location first, and then one of the brothers, Danny Parker, went into back into a location where he could look down the street, see the car, and see his other brother Shakeem. And then he was able to, from that point, they picked up their phone. Allegedly, these are all allegations that the government is giving. I'm not saying any of this happened. Then allegedly, he then called Shakeem. A thing happened. Then they both turned their phones off. And then at that time is whenever the gunman, who the government is saying is Shakeem, walked up to the driver's side of the vehicle and started firing into the vehicle. If I remember the diagram correctly, he was hit here. He was hit in the chin. Another shot went through, I believe, somewhere in this location, and then it came out his chest. I talk about the injuries in a moment. And so he sped off as he was getting fired at. Also, they said it was a 45. So this was a 45 he was getting shot with. These, you know when Clint Eastwood is doing Dirty Harry and he's talking about the calibers of guns, just go check out some of those Dirty Harry movies. It's just good. So you can understand this nigga had whoever this was had a Dirty Harry gun. They had a Dirty Harry gun, and I'm not laughing at the death of anyone, but whoever this was had a Dirty Harry gun. Fired into the vehicle. It was 5 shots. He drives off. He crashes in front of the police station, as we all saw. And then at that point, police officers run out and they come to his assist. They come to his aid. The evidence that the government is saying that they have, just so we can be clear, is video of the 2 men allegedly is video of the 2 men being inside of the store with no mask on or nothing, so they can see their clothes, they can see what they're wearing, having a full-blown conversation with a ton of people. And then they have video of those individuals doing the exact same thing, allegedly, that I just described. Then, after the shooting, they have video of those individuals, whoever did the shooting, allegedly, that they're saying is the defendant, the accused, going from the area of the shooting and going to the Bronx home. So before I go any further, there is a unit in the police force. There's a unit, and it's called one of the dudes testified yesterday. The sound, no. The technology is called, there's a technology. Hold on, there's a whole nother thing. Hold on. There's a couple of things. I don't want to get to that part. So there's a unit that works for the police. It was in the beginning of the day. There's a unit in the police force. And the unit's entire job is to, whenever there's a killing or whenever there's a shooting, is to track whoever did the thing through the, because who they believe to be the shooter or they believe to be the person who committed the homicide. They tracked them through the video cameras of New York City. Now, do y'all remember that there's a new thing going on with the bodegas of New York, where the bodegas need more protection in some of these streets that they exist? If you don't believe me, think about the Junior situation, where the young boy ran into the bodega and those men followed behind him and chopped them up. So just so we can be clear. So there is a need for protection in the bodegas. And personally, just so we can be clear, I think that if you own a deli and your store doesn't have any issue with, whatever the inspections, I think a lot of these bodega owners specifically, I'm not talking about deli owners. Y'all guys is in two different neighborhoods for the most part. Bodega owners should have the ability to go get firearms, because the way niggas is acting when they go in stores right now don't make any sense. We just got to do better. Okay, so patrol. No, I'm looking for the name of the freaking organization. I can't find the name of the organization, but there is a group of people. So there is a group of people. Just so we could be clear, there is a group of people. Somebody said I should stop saying allegedly. I'm not gonna stop saying allegedly. As far as I'm concerned, everything needs to be proven in court. Copy? So, all right. Shit, that's who that was. I believe so. I don't want to say nothing because I don't want to set nobody up. Somebody killed him. I don't know what anything else is going. I don't know. I don't know. But I will say this. I don't know. I'm not here to do that because I don't know who's asking. Shout out to the few. Salute. I'm doing my job. Part of my job is saying allegedly and things and such until there is a verdict in the courtroom. That's just my job, fam. You feel away about the situation, and the streets know what the streets know. But I still got to do my job the way I got to do my job, because we respect that. That's all I'm asking. Now put some good comments in so I could throw you up on the jump ball. Copy. Put some good comments in. Ask some good questions. Create dialogue for whatever the side of the conversation you're on. Which one of them has the real big thick bread? Is it? Next time they see me, I hope they come over, just dap me up. You don't have to have a super long conversation. I'll be more than happy to bring them on my show. I'll be more than happy to get some sound bites from them. I'll be more than happy to allow for him when I'm outside to do my streaming to come outside and talk his shit. However he feels about what's happening. Right? Come on. That's how we do this over here. All right. Allow for me to operate like media. All right. Allow for me to operate like media. All right. Let's get back to the show. Let me turn this light on. Let's get back to the show. All right, so just so we can be clear, so allegedly, just so we can be clear, at that point, the government is saying that they tracked these guys from the scene of what happened. When I say these guys specifically, I'm talking about Shakeem Parker. They're saying that they tracked them. They have a special agency. I'm going to tell you the name of it when we go past it. They have a special agency in New York City. What have I been telling y'all for the last 2 or 3 years? Not even 2 or 3 years, about 4 or 5 years. I've been telling y'all this since we've been in the Bronx. You know? So why does it turn out every single thing that I tell y'all, damn near every single thing that I tell y'all, is just me literally giving you information that we find out 3, 4, 5 years later I was telling the truth, or I knew something that other niggas didn't know because we had a shitload of people arguing against me. Why is that I'm so consistently correct about this type of stuff? Put it in the chat, or you could just hate. I mean, it is what it is, right? In any regard. So they found the shell casing. All this happened at the 32nd precinct. So it's called the Homicide and Shooting Advancement Unit. That's the name of them. The Homicide and Shooting Advancement Unit. They're trained to investigate video evidence. So that's what they do. That's the name of the grant. And it was the very next page. That's why I couldn't find it. It was the Homicide and Shooting Enhancement, unit. And that's what they're trained to do. So when you do any kind of shooting or anything like that in New York City, they have people who their whole entire job is tracking you throughout the city from one location to another to find out where you came from, where you went, everything. That's their job. Who told y'all that these guys existed? Frost told y'all these guys existed. Anyway, they also were saying, this is the opening statement once again, they also were saying that the defendant had a distinctive clothing on. So they're saying not only did they track this guy from one place to the other, right? Not only did they track him, just so we can be clear, from one place to the other. And remember, this is all allegedly at this point. We got to wait for the evidence to come in. As the evidence come in, and I'll clarify with you what the evidence is and what the evidence isn't. But right now, this is just the evidence that they're saying that they had. We can look at the YSL case. Is another case where they say, yo, we got all of these evidences over here, and then it turns out there's no evidence that could even be used in the court of law. So with that being said, I want to be clear about this. The audio had to have been terrible. So with that being said, I want to be clear about this. They're saying that these guys had distinctive clothing on. I remember basically they said one of them was wearing yellow sneakers. So I mean, I don't know what to tell you. So they're saying one of them was wearing yellow sneakers, just so we can be clear. I'm not going to make any joke about this. And they said that another one of them was identified through cell phone information. So the government is basically saying that they have a lot talking about this specific individuals being involved in it. They're saying that they tracked them. They said that the defendant actually went back to the Bronx. He was still wearing the distinctive clothing. And at that point, they were able to get one of the cameras that they were able to actually see his face and clearly, just so we could be clear. So they're saying that they also have a very clear photos of him, but they also have photos video that's grainy while they're tracking him to where he's going. But he eventually walks into an area where the camera was able to get his face clearly. And then they said something about the shooter was left-handed and the defendant was left-handed. And then there was an objection. He's like, "Fan, what are you doing?" The defense's closing opening statements basically was, a lot of them feel bad for the guy, Shakeem Parker. He was born and raised in Harlem. He's innocent. He's accused of murder that he did not commit. Then they tried to say Alpo cast the dark shadow
over Harlem. And then the defense team, and rightfully so, was like, objection. That objection got sustained. The judge was like, we're not doing this. We see what you're trying to do. You're trying to bring up, see, I'm going to explain something about law in the court. You can't just say, man, a lot of people were mad. It could have been anybody, without bringing evidence. So you can't just say some phantom stranger did it. You understand what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't work. You have to bring evidence to back up your claim. So he was like, Alpo cast the dark shadow over all of them. They was like, nah, we're not doing this, fam. Anyway, that objection got sustained. They said Alpo was the drug kingpin after that. They said, unfortunate to be on the streets when someone else decides to execute Alpo. Basically, he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. That's what his defense attorneys are saying. They're saying people witnessed the shooting and no one will testify if it was Shakeem Parker. So basically, what he was saying was, so you telling me that there's people that witnessed the shooting? Because one of the things that we are going to remember is they said that there were people standing around the vehicle of Alpo. And so he walked up while there were people over there, and then he started firing. So you trying to tell me that people saw who did it, but none of them is gonna finger my witness and finger my client? So that's what the defense attorney is basically saying, that, you know, people saw who did it, but none of them are saying it's my client. So why are we here, basically? They said, then they went on to say Alpo was a famous drug kingpin from 1980s and 1990s. And then they said Alpo was a stone cold killer. I believe that objection was overruled, basically, though, because he was a stone cold killer. So I can't remember because I didn't write it down, but I believe that objection was it's denoted like it was poo-pooed away. It was not sustained. Don't ask me why I'm having word brain fog right now. In any regard, they were saying that he was arrested for committing. He was convicted of violent felons. Just so we can be clear, that's another reason why I do believe that the objection was overruled, because his very next statement was he was arrested for being convicted of violent felonies. Pardon me. They said Alpo became a snitch. He provided information that resulted in the conviction of multiple other parties. So basically, what the defense team is basically saying, and they're building up, is as much of an issue that, you know, my client didn't have any reason. He had no problem. He has no history with Alpo. Nobody in his family has any history with Alpo. There's zero history with Alpo. So there's no reason why my client would want to harm Alpo. So my client was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. While at the same time, just so we could be clear, Alpo has a history that would indicate that there are people that want to harm him. It's just not my client. So this is basically what the defense is saying. I should really be an attorney. What the defense is saying. Then it says Alpo was in witness protection. He decided to leave. He was in witness protection. He decided to believe. For the fact that he was in witness protection, I believe that they're trying to allude that he even knew that his life was in danger. So why was he sitting in the damn crosswalk? He was in witness protection because he was snitched on people. In any regard, they say at the scene where the car crashed, heroin was recovered. Black tar heroin was recovered from the location. So now the defense team is basically saying not only is he known previously for being a ruthless killer and drug dealer, but there's a good chance that right now in this moment he was acting in the capacity of a drug dealer. And that's why he was where he was at when he was at doing what he was doing. So my client, why are we here? This could be he was already on the other side. He didn't learn his lesson. I'm just saying this is what they're saying. I'm not saying that this is what I'm saying, just so we can be clear. The defense then goes on to say, I'm not going to hear about any vendetta from the defendant. Like I just told you, he said there's no DNA or ballistics evidence linking Shakeem to the murder. He says there's no confession. He says no search provided evidence linking Shakeem to the murder. Then he says the state zeroed in on Shakeem just because they needed as their main target. He was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He said police hadn't followed up on an eyewitness that drove by and said that they saw the shooter. And basically, the shooter that they saw was not Shakeem. He says they didn't co-sign any other potential they didn't consider any other potential suspects. Said most of the prosecution evidence will be video evidence and phone records. Now, I'm not sure how that's a bad thing, just so we can be clear. I mean, those are the things that usually get people convicted, but he said it. So I'm assuming we already know what the evidence is. We can't hide from the evidence, so we're going to put it in your face first. And, we're going to try to control the narrative of what you believe this evidence to actually say, right? Just so we can be clear. Some of the video is grainy, some of it is clear. Shakeem sits here cloaked in the presumption of innocence. Right at the end, let them know, look, at the end of the day, our client is still innocent. So basically, the prosecution is saying that the people is basically saying that they have video evidence. They have all of the video. They track the actual shooter from the location of the shooting back home. And in addition to that, before they even got to the location, we tracked them backwards from the place that they actually came from. So we have an agency in New York City that the entirety of their job is to look at video and cameras from the street and then find out where a person came from and where a person went. So a lot of police witnesses, nothing too big, but I guess we'll go over it real quick and then I'll talk about it. So first, and a lot of these dudes, they were just speaking so low I couldn't even hear their names. So first officer comes up, I believe he's Officer Alexander. He didn't really say anything too compelling. He was just working that night, and he saw an officer giving CPR to someone that was on the ground. Obviously, that someone is Alpo. He saw an officer giving CPR to someone that was on the ground. That was Alpo. He received a radio run. He received a radio run, and that's why he went to it. So he heard it over the radio, basically, and then he responded. It was a shot. So I'll talk about it when we get to it. So he observed the Dodge Ram, and then he secured the crime scene, and that was basically it. He was there for 5 hours. So they basically just want to just lay down information so that they can make sure that they put the video in, because they have to lay down context. That's what I'm assuming this is for. The cross said the people were there when he arrived. So basically there was a cross-examination, and the only pertinent thing that he responded to was, yes, when he arrived, people were already there. And then the next witness comes up that's also a police officer. This is a dude that now works in the city of San Jose. He doesn't work here anymore. He's been over there for 2 years. Basically, he arrested Danny Parker. Danny Parker is the brother of Shakeem Parker. They're saying that he was basically the lookout. He's the person that was given a little bit of direction here and there, so Shakeem knew to when to attack. This is the allegation, just so we can be clear. And I could say allegedly. I hope I'm not upsetting anybody, but we're saying allegedly over here until it's proven in the court of law exactly what happened. Then we'll say what happened, because that's how this works. So he arrested Danny Parker on an unrelated case, and then Danny Parker's phone became evidence what they was then able to go into on a totally unrelated case. And so Danny Parker's cell phone was actually put into evidence unrelated to the crime. So Exhibit 13 is the phone of Danny Parker, who is the brother of Shakeem Parker. So that's evidence. That's People's Evidence 13, just so we could be clear. Then there was no cross-examination. And then the judge had to speak about a stipulation that had previously happened. So there was a stipulation that both parties agreed that Alpo was a drug dealer that he was arrested in 1991, that he was sentenced to 25 years, that he was a federal informant, that he was a drug dealer and a murderer, and that he was in witness protection, and he went by the name while in witness protection of Abraham Rodriguez, and he did live in Maine. And so now they don't have to keep saying this over and over again. Both sides have agreed that this is the way that they're going to respond to, or this is a truth that both sides agreed to. So now we don't have to worry about the constant, how do you say, I object. We don't have to worry about those that being constantly. Give me 1 second. We're going to go to a commercial break. I'll be right back. I'll be right back. We back. Sorry about that. I needed a second. So the stipulation had been made by both parties on either side. I'm going to go over this again. The judge stopped everything before actual trials happen. What happens is that both sides have pre-trial hearings, and in these pre-trial hearings, you determine what side is going to do what, how each side is going to do whatever they're going to do, right? So you determine what was going to be evidence, what's going to be allowed in, what we agree on, things like witnesses, all types of different stuff you have to agree on in pre-trial hearings, because that's just to get the trial going. So after the trial starts, we don't have to stop every 5 minutes to try to figure some stuff out. So at one point or another, there was obviously some type of how were they going to label, or how they was going to speak about Alpo, because while one side will want you to be like, he was the devil's, the other side is like, well, we don't want to lean too far into that, because we don't want anyone to think that, you know, someone else other than the people that we're pointing at did it. You understand what I'm saying? So we don't want anyone to think there's a million people after this guy. In any regard, we're going to go to the next witness real quick. Shout out to Dr. Michelle Strom. That was the next person. She's a forensic pathologist, medical examiner, basically. She's a medical examiner. It was interesting because she says that she herself had did over like 1,000 autopsies or something like that. She was like, I performed over 1,000 autopsies all by myself. Like, I don't know how I would go to bed next to a person that has seen all of that death. I don't know. This is your preferred job. It's kind of, we need people like you though. So shout out to you. You know what I'm saying? We need people like you. If you didn't do it, I don't know who would. So she works for OCME. That's basically the city medical examiner. We've had these guys show up in court often. Whenever it's a murder case, you have to have these guys show up because they have to tell you the pathology behind it, what the person actually died from, because the cause of death is different from Sheesh, I wish I would have wrote that down. I probably did somewhere. When we get to it, I get back to it. In any regard, she did the autopsy, extensive history, so we don't got to go through it. So she's done over 1,000 autopsies, she says. And then the judge said that she's qualified for being an expert witness. The difference between a regular witness and an expert witness is, with a regular witness, you're not supposed to consider their opinion. This is a regular person. Why are you considering their opinion? It's like, that's why you got to stop listening to people out here in the real world that keep trying to tell you about other people. The judge has to deem that the person is knowledgeable enough in their field in order to be able to deem them an expert. After the judge deems them an expert, then that means that you can accept their opinion as testimony. Other than that, you're not allowed to accept anybody's opinion as testimony. What they're basically saying is that this individual knows enough about this specific topic that we're going to take their opinion on things that they say, because, you know, there's going to be hypotheticals in it, like, how did this happen? How did that happen? Whatever the case might be, that can't be quantified. Pardon me. But since this particular individual, you know, has done, you know, a certain level of schooling on this, a certain level of research on this, that means that, you know, we can accept their opinion as evidence, because, you know, hell, we don't know about this shit, and well, you know, you get it. In any regard. So they did the autopsy on Alpo. Exhibit 1 was the autopsy report. The bullets was transported from the hospital with Alpo's body, basically. And also there was a body diagram, and that's Exhibit 1A. So Exhibit A is a picture of the corpse. Exhibit 1A is a body diagram, which is basically like, you know, a picture of a man that they drew out with, you know, outlined. And then they got the different areas marked on there where he was actually shot. So that's what the body diagram is. Then it goes on to say that there was gunshot wound. There was 1, 2, 3. There was 3 different gunshot wounds. They got A, B, C, and D. A caused injury to the front of the heart. It went through him here and it exited over here. It caused injury to the front of the heart. It went through the lugs and it damaged his ribs. Then they have the gunshot wound B. Those caused injuries to the humerus. That's the long upper, the bone in your upper arm, the long one. And it also bust a major blood vessel. Then there was gunshot wound C. That one went in right above the elbow. And then it was gunshot D, and that one fractured the bone on his forearm. So this is all on the left arm. So you got hit here, here, and on the wrist. So then Exhibit 2 was photos of Alpo in the morgue. There was more photos of Alpo, was Exhibit 2. Exhibit 3 was photos of Alpo's arm, upper left arm, pardon me, because remember, this is where the window was at when you were in the driver's seat, right? Exhibit 5 was a photo of the projectiles, the fragments from Alpo's arm. Exhibit 6 was projectile fragments from the right side of his chest muscle. Exhibit 7 was basically the bag of bullets that the hospital had recovered, because remember, he was shipped to the hospital first. That's where he passed away at, with injuries. Then they asked, with the injuries that he had, you know, could he drive? Because remember, bullet A had went through his heart, the front of his heart, and through some lungs. And the judge said yes, you know, he wasn't going to die immediately. It's not like he got hit in the head. He didn't die immediately, like it was a gradual thing. So he still had a little bit of his strength. He still had a little bit of his wherewithal. So yeah, driving for a short period of time was absolutely possible. They said that his toxicology report said that he had nothing in his system. There was no drugs and there was no alcohol that was in the system. She says that the manner of his death was a homicide, and she said the cause of his death was a gunshot wound. So the manner of your death and the cause of your death are two different things. The manner of his death was a homicide, and the cause of his death was a gunshot wound. They asked if there was going to be any cross-examinations. That was the end of the state's run. The cross-examination, they said that there was no questions. Now, I want to be clear about this. There's nothing for them to ask this person. Like, there's nothing that this individual can say that can benefit the client, because the argument isn't whether he got shot or not. He got shot. All this particular witness can speak for is towards what happened in the autopsy. He got shot, and this is how he died. There's nothing that the defense team can actually even ask this person, just so we can be clear. So there's no questions. And you can hurt your client by constantly, cross-examining people who have nothing of benefit to say for your client. You could hurt your client. So, you got to know when to waste people's time and when not to, because you also don't want to look like you're not working. In any regard. So the next witness comes up is an Officer Malali. I mean, I don't know. The guy just didn't say his name loud enough, and then he didn't spell it well. And they're not talking loud enough, just so we can be clear. So he did all of the things. They're not talking loud enough. Couldn't hear him. It's like they're not talking into the mic, or the mic ain't working well enough. I don't know. But it is what it is. In any regard, this was just one of the officers. He was a public servant. Oh, he's been doing public service. He's an officer for 17 years. He worked at that particular location on 90th Street for about 14 years or whatever the case is. But he's been an officer for 17 years. He said that he was basically at the 32nd precinct when the situation happened. He was in the parking lot. He said that he heard gunshots near the precinct. Then he ran towards the gunshots. It was on 8th Ave. That's where he heard the gunshots. He said the vehicle sped up. And it crashed into two cars. And then he said he went to the accident. So he was one of the first people, if not the first people, that was on the location when Alpo crashed. He said it was at 147 Frederick Douglass Boulevard. He approached the vehicle. He observed bullet holes in the driver's side. He went into the passenger side, and he hit the stick and everything to turn the car off because it was still on. He ain't turned the car off like right before he passed away. Like, clicked it. That didn't happen. So he ran around to the passenger side. The officer, he turned the car off, put it in park, all of that stuff. He already had seen what happened. He said he put the vehicle in park. He says the driver was still alive, but he couldn't respond at the time. He says he removed the person from the vehicle, I believe with some help, as other officers arrived and they started to do CPR. He said while they started to do CPR, he investigated the truck while life-saving tasks were delivered to the person. They said he found the ID. He said he didn't find any drugs in the vehicle. He said he didn't find any guns in the vehicle. Exhibit 14 is the ID of the person in the car. It was Alpo's driver's license, but it was the driver's license that said Abraham Rodriguez from Maine. He was the body cam of what happened is Exhibit 15, just so we could be clear. He said he turned on his body cam as he approached the truck. So as soon as he started approaching the truck, he had already turned on his body cam. He said that the EMS had arrived, and then the units removed him and sent him to the hospital. So then no cross-examine. Once again, there's nothing that the defense team can say that can help their client. What they're going to do, all they can do is ask him questions about what he already had said happened and have him just repeat what was already said. Now, I guess you could do that to look busy, but depending on who you're talking to, you might just make it look like, you might just be helping the prosecution and not necessarily helping your guy. So you got to pick and choose which person that can't help you you're going to talk to. You just can't talk to all of them because they don't have anything that can help your guy. Officer Kevin Connolly went up there. He was at the 32nd prison. He said he worked there for 15 years. He said he observed bullets. This is the next witness. He observed bullet holes in the vehicle and an unresponsive person in the driver's seat. They said they administered CPR for 3 to 4 minutes. The EMS arrived. They said the vehicle search after the vehicle search, after he left with the victim, went to the hospital, said that he saw spent bullets in the vehicle, and his body cam is also exhibit. It's either 15 or 16. Then the cross-examination came. They had to talk to somebody. So they talked to this guy. They said they asked some basic questions about police work. And then they said, did not hear shots. They asked him, did he hear the shots? He said he didn't hear the shots. He was actually not at the location. He was driving around in his patrol car with his partner. And then they got the call that there was shots, basically. They said they took them 2 minutes to get to the scene. It was just like right there, I'm assuming. Like they was in the store getting them damn chopped cheese. I don't know. He says they didn't document any of the witnesses or anything like that at the crime scene. They didn't canvass the crime scene, not him personally. He didn't have a description of the shooter. So he doesn't know who the shooter is. Like, I don't got a description. So once again, I guess that's the closest thing they can go to not, saying something that could help their client. Then there was a redirect from the government, and they says when he left the scene, about a dozen officers was at the stream, and the detectives was already on the way. So there is a narrative that allegedly the defense is going to try to use, that the government didn't even look to see if there were other people that could have been involved in this, that just right off the rip, they zeroed in on that one person and said it's you, and they just ignored any other evidence that could have pointed at the possibility of there being somebody else involved in this and not their client. So that's what they want to do, but they have to be careful. So that's why the redirect was to make sure that there were people that were there doing the job when you left. Remember, this person was driving around on patrol. They got to get back to driving around on patrol. Wherever they was at, they chopped cheese was probably ready. What the fuck do I know? But they were officers that were there, and he's not a detective. So he's not supposed to be there really questioning people and doing all that shit. Y'all do know that, right? The detectives are generally the people that's supposed to be doing all the questioning and everything else. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so the next witness comes up. It's a Walter Collier III. He works for the Sound Thinking Inc. So basically, y'all know in New York City, and I know they got these a lot of different states. All right, this is not new technology that New York is the only one that has it. But the ShotSpotters, right? When there's a shooting that happened in your location, there's a ShotSpotter up, and then they can be able to ascertain where the shooting happened and send people there quicker. So this is the individual that works for those guys. So he's up there testifying as to where the shots happened at specifically. Because another thing that it seems that the prosecution is trying to do, the defense might be trying to do, is saying that the shooting happened somewhere where the shooting didn't happen. So they're trying to say, no, this is where the shooting happened. And the proof of this is we probably don't have nobody that's seen the shooting right now that's going to testify and say that they saw the shooting. But what we do have is this technology called ShotSpotter. And this technology is designed to be able to ascertain where shootings happen in order to relay that to the police. So this guy took the stand. Exhibit 17A and 17.3 is basically the locations. It's the census where the location of the shot actually happened. They say it was 5 gunshots. They actually played an audio also of the 5 gunshots. He's saying that the shooting happened on 151st and Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Then they played the shots, bang, 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 and then that was it. There was no questions from the defense's team, because obviously there's nothing to ask this guy. And that was the end of the day. The day was done. So that's the whole entire day from what happened. They're gonna resume next week. So there's no more court this week. So they say the defense, and I found this interesting, so I want to tell you about this. So basically, there's 2 witnesses that the prosecution has, and they haven't given the defense enough, I guess, intel or information on these 2 witnesses. But the prosecution is busy saying they don't even know if they're going to be able to get these guys to testify. Like, they've been subpoenaed, but we don't know if they're going to show up. These 2 people are allegedly witnesses that saw Shakeem Parker, allegedly. And they're saying they don't know if they're going to show up. So your guess is as good as mine. I don't think that the defense team obviously doesn't believe them. So they're talking to the judge. They said that they were told that there were going to be 2 civilian witnesses on the witness list, and that would be the people that saw it. And they want these witnesses precluded. They like, we don't want you to put these witnesses in because they were already supposed to have given us their name, given us their information and everything for us to be able to go try to talk to them or whatever the case is, or, you know, whatever might be going on. The witness list is supposed to already be in, so we want them precluded. The judge said that it's still too early to preclude these witnesses, and then he gave a whole entire explanation that has to deal with the appellate court. And once again, I keep trying to explain to y'all, judges do not want their verdicts in their court appealed. They don't want that. So they're not trying to do things that's going to help an appeal happen against any verdict that happens in their courtroom. So that's basically what he said. It's too early to preclude the witnesses, and nobody even knows who the witnesses is. He's like, I don't even know who these guys are. I'm trying to find out. The prosecution is like, we've been trying to get y'all the information, but we don't even know what these guys is doing themselves. But they did say that they'll keep the defense up to date, and, you know, they're subpoenaing the guys, but they don't know what's going to happen. They don't know if the dudes is going to testify. So the judge said he's going to defer the decision. Says because at this point it's still we got to hear what these people are going to say before I could just decide that we can't allow for their testimony, basically, is what I'm assuming he's saying. Because he doesn't have any idea of what they're going to say. And so the defense team says that, you know, like, they don't got to update their witness list. Like, you know, obviously, you know, they got to update their witness list. And the judge says he doesn't know what the prosecution will do or won't do. I don't have the slightest idea what they're doing or they're not doing. The prosecution said that they'll provide information if the witnesses have criminal records. So basically what it might sound like to the defense team first, y'all might have some people and we want to know who they are, because one, we want to know if these people, you know, because they have to figure out how they're going to attack these people's character, especially if the people are going to say that they saw a thing. So you have to be able to attack their character. If we don't know who these people are before we get to court, how can we, you know, get the requisite information together in order to be able to attack their character? And the proof of that might be a strategy that they might be trying to do is the prosecution says that, you know, if these guys have any criminal record, we'll let you know. We're not offering anybody anything, basically. And the prosecution might not want to let them know who these witnesses are because maybe the witnesses haven't been testifying or don't want to testify. The last thing they need is for somebody to go threaten them. The last thing they need is for people to know their names, for people to be like, yo, you a snitch, and then they don't show up to court. So they might not want anybody to know who these people are, because they might already be having an issue with trying to get these individuals to come to court and testify. With that being said, that's everything that happened yesterday. Anything anybody want to talk about in regards to this, put into the chat. That's everything that happened yesterday. I didn't get all of the names for everybody. I'll get everybody's names so we can make sure that we humanize everybody that's working on this particular case, the lawyers, the judge, everybody. I make sure I get everybody's names tomorrow. Monday. Pardon me. I'm going to tell you the thing that I found super interesting. And this is why I constantly try to tell y'all, we got to do better. We just got to do better. We got to figure something out, and we got to do better. In any regard, this individual, for lack of a better term, is accused of committing a murder with people around with bright yellow shoes on and a very distinctive outfit. So niggas ain't even trying to be free no more. So niggas ain't even trying to be free no more. You just out here committing all type of, maybe it's what the defense said. Like maybe somebody just went out there dressed like this. It's wrong place, wrong time. I mean, who the fuck knows, right? Let's I don't want to get into that. If anybody has any opinion on this, put it into the chat. We got 40 people that voted. Says, do you think that Trump Alpo? I'm ending the vote right now, by the way. Do you think Alpo should have stayed out of Harlem? 62% said yes. 20% said just want to see the results. 17% said no. I assume at one point or another, the defense team is going to say that Alpo was currently a part of rebuilding his drug empire. I'm going to assume that that's what the defense team is going to put up. And I'm going to assume that the defense team is also going to try to say it was just somebody that he was beefing with as far as trying to, take over their block. I'm assuming that's what the defense team is going to try to say while they're trying to exonerate their client. But we don't know. Obviously, we don't know. We don't have the slightest idea. We're going to have to see it ourselves. But that's 100% where it looks like it's going. And that just looks like what kind of time these dudes is on at the point. I don't know. What do y'all guys think? Put it into the chat. I'm looking at the thing. I was doing the thing. What up, Show Enough? Salute. Any questions? Any questions at all? Excuse me. Any questions at all? Put it into the chat. Somebody was in here earlier and they was like, just say he did. That's not how we work. That's not how it goes. All right. We talk about the actual evidence. And right now, if the prosecution has what they're saying that they have, it's going to be pretty hard for the defense team to be able to get out of this. If the prosecution has what they're saying that they have. And if there's any indicator, what they said at the end of the day is any indication that they might actually have two witnesses that saw, civilian witnesses that saw what happened. And if those two individuals testify and actually says what the prosecution want them to happen, it's over. It's the first day. How can I know? How can I know if dude's gonna beat it? It's the first day. How could I know? How could I know? It's the first day. We didn't even hear anything. How could I know? Put it in the chat. How could I know? How possibly could I know? Do you think? Does anybody else here think so? Is there anything else y'all want to talk about? Put it into the chat. I'll go into a little bit because I mean, at this point, that's the whole show. I just told y'all what happened on the first day. If y'all don't have no questions, then I'm gonna let y'all go. I'm not gonna hold you. But I just told y'all what happened on the first day. At this point, right now, we're looking to see if y'all got any questions. Is there anything that you want to ask me about what happened in court? Is there any pertinent questions? And then I'm not trying to have that conversation. I have no opinion. I don't know if the prosecution is going to even really call a witness for the defense team to even speak to. Because of all of the witnesses is that they're going to be calling is police, and all they're going to be talking about is the video evidence and the audio evidence and the forensic evidence and no, there isn't any current forensic evidence that actually ties Shakeem to the shooting. There is no allegedly. There is no evidence. Shout out to Trojan Man. Allegedly. Right? So there is no forensic evidence that ties Shakeem to the shooting, allegedly. So I don't know who his defense team even talks to. I guess every once in a while they got to choose somebody that they could speak to that's going to say a thing that can add to the narrative that they're trying to create. That could have been anybody that we're just in the wrong place at the wrong time. This guy got a lot of enemies. Well, real facts is that they found a gun used in the murder. Not to my knowledge. There's been no mention of a gun. The only time they mention only time they mention the firearm in any capacity is when they said that the bullets that he was hit with was a 45. So there was no mention and no gun other than that. The 17th on Monday. Yeah, they're saying that they have video evidence of the shooters, alleged shooters before the shooting, and video evidence of the alleged shooters after the shooting. And they're saying that they tracked the alleged shooters from the shooting to their home in the Bronx. They're saying that the alleged shooter was wearing distinctive clothes that made it easy to be able to see them from other people. They stood out. So that's what they're saying. And remember, the defendant does not have to prove themselves to be innocent. The prosecution have to prove their case that that person is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. I'm not sure who was Alpo's son. Well, hold on, let me. Okay, I didn't see Paparazzi Poe. I didn't see Paparazzi Poe. Does he have a different son? Bo Real Facts says Alpo still had Bo Real Facts says Alpo still had money moving around from what he had heard. I heard the same thing. And I think that's what the defense team is, trying to make a point of. This guy was not a good guy. He was still out here doing things that could put his life in jeopardy. Bo Real Fact says that's why he was comfortable going back. Maybe he was just comfortable going back because he was Alpo. Remember, dudes was treating him like a lot of people was treating him like he was royalty, fam. Let's be honest. And I'm not saying he was or he wasn't. I'm just saying what it was. I'm not saying he was royalty. I'm not saying he wasn't royalty. I'm just saying a lot of people was treating him like he was royalty, fam. This nigga had like at least two movies made based on his life. How many other movies came out that was based on what happened between Alpo and Rich Porter? There's a ton of movies that came out. They're a whole genre right now, fam. That shit that happened in Harlem is a genre. What up, Fox? Salute. You got any questions, my brother? I'm looking for questions. My fault. I didn't mean to look down at my phone. I'm looking for questions. You got any questions, my brother? I did the whole first day already. In the beginning of the video, I say from about the 8-minute point on, the 8 or 9, 10-minute point on. All right, yeah, I give a recap. So, just so we can be clear, first day of trial, most of the people that took the stand, it was opening statements. I was able to get there for both of the opening statements. The big aspects of the opening statements from the prosecution basically is that allegedly they have video of the individual that shot Poe. They have video of that individual before and after the shooting, and they tracked that person after the shooting back home to the Bronx, and they believe that person to be Shakeem Parker. They also have video evidence of his brother being there, and they believe that his brother was actually a part of the situation. And they believe his brother was actually a part of the situation and helped him with the assassination. The prosecution is saying different, basically, that they don't have no case, they don't have no forensic evidence, they don't have the gun, they don't have any of these things. They just chose my client was in the wrong place at the wrong time, and the government just focused in on him, and they didn't look at any of the other criteria, including allegedly somebody driving past the scene and seeing the shooter and witnessing the shooter, seeing the shooter run from the location, and they allegedly gave an alternative description that does not match the client, that the defendant that's currently on trial. So that was basically opening statements. Copy. Industry Wednesdays coming soon. Shout out to the mother. Shout out to the brother Mike Jones. Fox says, "Wow, he gonna beat this. There's too many people that wanted Poe dead," and that's basically what the defense wants to use as a defense. That's basically what the defense wants to use as a defense. That there was a lot of other people who wanted, Alpo gone, and this specific individual who's on trial, they had no problem with Alpo. They had no beef with Alpo. There wasn't any, issue that they had. Fox says they video better show them pulling the trigger. What they're saying is that the individual who did the actual assault, one, allegedly, there is two civilian witnesses that they're trying to get to testify, but they don't know if they're going to testify. Looks like they're not going to necessarily be successful in trying to get them to testify. But they're also saying that the individual that committed the crime had distinctive clothing on that night, very, very distinctive clothing. And they're saying that the clothing that they had matches clothing that Shakeem Parker had, is what they're saying. and was wearing that night. Fox says, and if the brother is a part of it, he should be charged. I have no idea why they're not on trial together. 0. Bo Real says it was a lot of people out there that night. And that's apparently, just so we can be clear, that is what the defense is saying. That you had so many people out there that night that saw what happened, but none of them are coming forward to say that my client did it. That's what the defense is using as a defense. Well, his brother, I believe, is currently in jail. I don't know if his brother is in jail or not. Let me not say that. But they did have a officer take the stand that actually arrested the brother on a different crime. The brother was arrested on a unrelated crime. Danny Parker, that's the brother. On December 1st, 2021, Danny Parker was arrested. It was on an unrelated crime. And they were then able to get Danny Parker's cell phone, and his cell phone is Exhibit 13 in this case. So Exhibit 13 in this case is Danny Parker's cell phone. They're saying allegedly right before the shooting happened, he had contacted his brother, and then he turned the phone off for like a couple of minutes. Then the shooting happened, and then he turned the phone right back on after that happened, after the shooting, and then contacted his brother, I believe, again. And that's what they're saying happened. Yeah, so there are messages from his phone. Yes. Allegedly. So I'm not sure if the brother is arrested currently or not. They didn't necessarily, that wasn't a thing that they led into or not. So I'm not sure if the brother is arrested currently or not. Any more questions? There were people there. I don't know who the people were related to, but there were people there. And I'm going to just tell y'all what happened in court. I'm not going to be over here. The 17th, Monday. Monday is the next date. 17th. Sorry about that. I'm about to let y'all go. Is there any other questions? I'm not gonna lie to y'all. It's about time for me to go. Is there any other questions? Anybody has anything else that they want to add to this? Anything else y'all want to ask me about? If not, do you know anything about the bus hijacking in Atlanta? I heard about that. They said one person died. I heard about the bus hijacking. I think the individual took one person's life and everybody else basically was, not killed. I heard about it. I don't know much, but I did hear about it. But once again, did you hear about the alleged 3 terrorist attacks that allegedly happened in New York Philadelphia and LA. Did you hear about those? There's been terrorist attacks going on like crazy. They just haven't been reporting them. Because they're attacking military bases in a lot of these cases. And the military just isn't, why would the military report that? There's been terrorist attacks all over the place. That part. You have Russia take their nuclear subs and sent them down to Cuba, right off of our border. Like, pardon me, right off of our shores. Not even 100 fucking miles. Where they're shooting missiles up into the sky. And you people are over here talking about you're not going to vote for Donald Trump. But you will vote for some people that got Russia sending a military on our doorstep. So I'm just going to sit back and wait for, whatever's the next thing to come. Because no matter how bad it get, these Democrats are going to swear that they're doing the right thing. Because their objective, is to destroy everything that we know. So no matter how bad it gets, they're on target. No matter how bad it gets, they're on target. They're just going to keep pretending like it's Donald Trump did it. That's all. No matter how bad it get, though, they're on target. You had fucking Korea scared to do military drills off the coast of Taiwan. These dudes, Russia just pulled up and did military drills off of our coast. Just something to think about. Just something to think about. That's why every time I listen to people right now, just wanting Biden to be in the office, and all I could do is think to myself, like, we're about to go through a whole world war right now. And you busy concerned with, and you see the end there. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. I don't think Higher Minds has any real common sense. You just try to make it look right that a dude went and put himself in a position for his own life to be taken. And you're applauding for him right now. Not and basically not applauding him doing the thing that wouldn't put himself in a compromised position. You're applauding the fact that he put himself in a compromised position and got compromised. I don't understand you guys. Do what you do. I know I'm out of here. Everybody have a beautiful day. Go out there in the world, do something worth doing, stamp God's name on it. Like, comment, subscribe. Join the notification gang. Hashtag Bronx Bombers. Let's get it. I love y'all. Take care of each other. Hug the kids for me. I haven't forgotten about you. And that's all I got on this one. I'm out.